Welcome, everybody. Hello and welcome to the Aligning with Success call. It is May 18, President's Day in the United States, Victoria Day in Canada, an homage to our rulers. In any event, we're here to gather up and focus our attention on how to create a better reality for ourselves and others. Of course, aligning with success is the title of this call, but the point of this call is to bring all of our best information to the foreground and instill the principles behind which success is happening. And success is principally driven, if you understand the laws of attraction, the laws that govern the nature of reality. And so most of you are very familiar with that. For those of you who are not so familiar with that, you will as you stay tuned. However, having said all that, we have a call that happened this past weekend that is the focus of tonight's call, so that we have an opportunity to reflect on how to take advantage of this type of call, the nature of this call. Sherry, I got some background noise on your line.
Okay, let me.
Okay. We had 311 people at our peak and over 295 people for the duration of Saturday's call, which makes it one of the most viewed events online ever for our North American constituents here. And we had, of course, people as well from Europe as well, through the United Kingdom and other countries. But the most important point being, as we transition from a business that was face-to-face primarily in person to a business that's functional online, and we're gathering steam and momentum behind this rhythm of events that we're putting online, Saturday's event was a very good example of what happens when you market an event. And I want to talk about marketing an event a little bit more specifically tonight, things that you can do to improve that, things that you can do to become more involved and more active in any event, as well to be able to volunteer as a guest on some of these events. Judging from the response that we got on Saturday and the last day or so, and tonight, what we're going to hear from tonight as well, it's looking very optimistic as far as us having an event similar to this one next month. Again, that would probably be on the third Saturday. This will be confirmed tomorrow. We have a follow-up call tomorrow afternoon to make the decisions around that. But what's really important is to understand the dynamics at play. So before we get into that review of the principles at play, let's just discuss some of the benefits of what has been experienced by any of you over the last, as a result of that call, leading up to the call and the call itself. So again, if there was going to be a call that validates Saturday's call, that's what this call is. So I'd like to know what you experienced as a result of knowing this call was happening. The marketing material, which was essentially 5 or 6 images that we put together to promote the call, your attendance on the call, your guest attendance, and any subsequent events that have happened with the follow-up, which included, by the way, an email follow-up, hopefully you utilized as well. So let's look at this event as an event, regardless of the fact that it's very convenient because it's online. It was an event, and it required organization, and it required collaboration, and it required everybody to put it on their calendar. And what made it a success is it all came together. So now, what made the event attendance a success is that it all came together. What makes the event a success, and let me be sure about our understanding of what makes an event a success, is whether or not you increased your volume personally through retail sale or increased your organization through sponsoring someone or someone in your organization. So those are the things that matter. If these events aren't producing results in that regard, then these events are not productive. Yes, it's fun to get together. That's important. And we do that. But the purpose of Saturday's event was that it was to be a guest event. So if you were there in attendance having guests, you were working the event. You were leveraging the event. If you were there as a spectator with no guests, then you were a spectator of the event. We're happy to have you, of course, and hopefully the result of what you hear from those who were working the event, you will know that you won't let another one of these events pass by as a spectator. You will work the event. We'll work toward it, leading up to it, market it, and leverage it, just like those who did. So let's hear from those who were working the event, who leveraged the event, and some of the things that you've experienced as a consequence. So, and it doesn't have to be long answers. We want to be short because I want to curtail this call to about 30, 45 minutes tops. Anyone would like to jump in, go ahead. If you were working the event, you had some attendees there and you had some results from that, please jump in.
I'll speak, Mike. I had a number of guests on the call. They were absolutely blown away with the presentations, appreciated the overview of everything. When Gary asked people to identify where they were from, that really made an impact because that emphasized the fact that we are a global community and a collaborative global community. So it was very, very positive. I have yet to hear anything negative.
Okay.
And I have people in the process that are coming on board.
Oh, fantastic. That's what I want to hear. I want to know what's the consequence. I'm glad you had attendees. You've got people coming on board. By the way, I noted that and shared that immediately with Gary. I thought that was brilliant to ask people to text in on the chat where they're coming in from. I thought that was fantastic as we saw that roll call going. We used to do that with a verbal roll call on our live conference calls, but that's time consuming. To do it the way he did was fantastic. It was a great addition. So we took a note. We definitely will do that. And if you're hosting an event yourself online, make a note. That was something that I'm sure made an impact for the audience, was to see somebody type in their chat where they were coming in from. So you see, as you said, how we're diverse, yet we're collaborating, working together, yet we're spanning the globe. Thanks for that, Barbara. Anyone else?
And a point was made on, Mike, if I can add one thing to that, a point was made on our team call this morning, our Alliance call, that it would be really helpful not only if people would put in where they're from, but what their former career was, so that people could see the diversity of their backgrounds and how they've come into the family of Nikken.
Interesting point. That's good too. I think that speaks to the idea that facts tell, stories sell. And it's a very, like I said, it was very compelling to see, I'm sure for the guest, where everybody's coming in from. That it's quite impressive to see that you're on a call that has such representation. And at the same time, if you added what your background was, that would add to the number of testimonies, if you will, validating that Nikken is an opportunity for everybody, regardless of what your background is, not just where you are physically, but regardless of where you're coming from in life. I think it's a great idea. Good input. That's really good input. I'll note that for sure. Yes, Wes.
Can I add something? Well, yeah, and adding to that, the idea there, if we could come up with some way towards the end of the conference to make some note that would be recorded about the number of people that are attending and where some of them are from and their backgrounds, and just to make a point, because in the recording, we can't see that list of people. We can't.
And I appreciate that, Wes, but to be honest, we weren't even sure we were going to release the recording. And I'll tell you why. We want people to attend a live event. And there's a tendency, I'll give you an example. So let's say Lion King on Broadway is happening. but they record Lion King happening on Broadway and make it widely available to anybody. What's the chances that you're going to actually buy a ticket to go see Lion King on Broadway next week when you just watched it? So there's a drawback. We want to give you the benefit of having seen what this event was like, but we don't want this event to be an event where now it's done. We've showcased it. It's done. There's nothing else to see here. We want you back. We want more people back. The live event is what we want. And we want to make sure that that live event is what we're marketing and promoting, not so much the video event, because there's something about a dynamic event that's live. And if one of the features of the live event is that you only get to see who's on it this way, that dynamic only happens because it's live, that might be a thing we want to keep just because it's live. In other words, let's keep some element of the event specific to the fact that it's live, so it can't be duplicated in a recording, and therefore creates the urgency for people to attend. So I want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we feature those things. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. One of the things that made a live meeting dynamic, powerful, in every meeting I've ever been to, was the testimonies. That was just something that was live, unscripted, and borderline, like we navigate as well as we can the issue of that. But when you record something, now you're liable. Now you have a recording, so now you have to edit the recording, or that changes the dynamic of the live experience. So there are some things that we want to maintain for the live experience that we don't want to capture on the recording. So I don't know that we will record anymore. This recording was done mainly because we know we had one event. That's all we had. Whether there was going to be a second or third, we don't know. We were just saying, let's do this event and see how it goes. We'll capture it. And now you have it. Now you've seen it. Utilize it as well as you can for the sake of knowing what's here, the value of it. In other words, it was mainly for the Nikken business builder to see the value of this event, to be able to review it if they didn't come, or maybe for somebody you invited who didn't come. You can send them, say, sorry you missed it, here it was recorded, check out what you missed. But now that we know it's something that there could be a demand for, and more importantly, could be that rhythm, that important rhythm that we're establishing, then next month, if we do this on the third Saturday, I don't want to see 311 people. I want to see 600 people. Why would I expect 300 people? Well, usually what happens when there's a first anything in Nikken, everybody shows up to see what's going on. Oh, now I've seen.
Michael, I think don't worry about that. And
No.
we have an example here. Jerome had to work that day, but his wife was on, interfered with the kids because they're 4 kids, really busy, 5 years apart. But when he got to look at it, and when I met with them as a follow-up, he was on last Monday night, and he called after watching what Sahar did. He contacted 20 people. So his first day off was yesterday. So we met yesterday. So the plan was to follow up. And today he has Valerie here. So we were doing 3-way Zooms before coming in here. And she was interested enough to see what's going on here. Lori and the other couple that were on last Monday saw the same thing. So they had their guests come on Thursday night, and from Thursday night to Saturday. And today, that was a new pack, a new customer, and he'll be a power start by tomorrow when the second customer order gets in. So the power start is done.
Now let's just time it. So let's recap, because I think it's really important we understand what you just said. Because if what we have here is a clearly defined process that is resulting in someone making a decision to enroll as a Nikken consultant, and not only decide to get involved, but to get involved in an active way, in a manner that's consistent with our incentives program in terms of how should I start. I had a 2-hour call today, myself and a few others with Luis Kasuga. And that was one of the key components of our conversation, was the fact that we need a very disciplined startup procedure that we're following. So let's recap again. So you had Jerome, as an example, was a guest on a call Monday.
Jerome he had been out, he was with me before, re-signed up.
Okay.
So he wasn't there, but his wife was. She was all excited.
That was on Saturday. That was on, but let's back up to the beginning of last week.
He was on last Monday. Yeah, last Monday. Yeah.
So the process began for Jerome's wife Monday.
And Jerome, Monday. He was
And
there.
Jerome, okay. And then there was a Thursday event, which was
that was the other couple. They were on Monday night too. And they were on Thursday night with their guests. And that guest they were on with their guest. So they got their power start going, and the guest is tomorrow will decide whether they're going to get, well, they're definitely, he already has his credit card, waterfall pack, and now some other things. So maybe he'll get the 2 packs. And now that he's excited, maybe he'll join as a member.
So with respect to this as a process this week, would it be fair to say that Saturday was a lock-in event? Yes. Okay. So if we understand the process, which is there's 3 conversations that need to happen for someone to have gone through a complete process. First conversation is, why are we talking? Which has to do with their 5 pillars of health. Okay. Why is their reason why, not your reason why. It's their reason why. Would they even investigate an opportunity? That's the first conversation. It could be an invitation, a phone call, a conversation. However you arrive at why are they going to take the next step, which is to spend time in a presentation where they learn about the Nikken idea, the Nikken opportunity, the products, etc. So that would have been the presentation that they experienced on Thursday. What was the presentation they got on Monday? This call?
This call, yeah.
Okay, so this call for them then would have been actually the what? What does it take? So it was a little bit out of order, but they got all 3 pieces of this.
But they heard Leonardo with Zahar and what she was doing.
Exactly. So what they heard was the what conversation was, what does it take to get this business going? What's it going to take? And they got a great example, illustration of that. And so what you had was all 3 conversations, followed by the Saturday event, which is in this particular drawing is right here called the lock-in event. The lock-in event is where they're able to see a number of people in the whole picture of Nikken. You got 300 people on this line, and you got great stories and many different stories from new people to people who've been tenured with Nikken. You're having what we call a lock-in event, a very packed-in event, powerful ABC call. And then from there, decisions are made. Usually at this point in time, a person makes the commitment to get involved and to what degree. And so that's where you're at with everybody, where they're now making those choices. So how often do you need a lock-in event?
Well, I think with the week, my feeling with all these weekly Zooms that we have products ones, we have all kinds of ways to take people through that information process. And I do think once a month for that kind of a lock-in event is what we need.
Essentially, that's what I believe too, and what I've taught since the beginning of time. The lock-in event needs to be at least a monthly event somewhere, somehow. And we've moved it to online. And we have called it a Power A team call previously, where it was just simply a 3 to 4 or 5 key presenters in terms of stories that we're hearing of why the benefits of Nikken long term. But this lock-in event was a little different. This involved more people. It was a little bit more rounded because it covered the storyline. In case you missed it, in case there was a piece of this you didn't have, being invited to, we covered it all. You had the whole scope of Nikken essentially. And the Q&A, for instance, at the back end really answers. And by the way, those were really good questions. And we're going to make sure that similar questions are asked every time, because it's important that the right questions are asked, so that if somebody's evaluating this as a business, the most common questions are the same. It doesn't really matter where you're coming from. There's about 4 or 5 questions that are really the 4 or 5 questions we always get. So if we can answer those questions on this call, then we're literally handling the entire process, and the event itself is a lock-in. So in one shot, you can accomplish a whole bunch. And so that's the focus, and we'll make sure that that's a backstop. If we do this on a regular basis, then we're making certain that there's an entire process in place that a person can bring someone to and give them the full scope of it. Plus there's the follow-up email we'll get to. So was anyone else working the event, had guests at the event?
Well, yeah, I had 3 people at the event, and I had another about 10 people that were invited.
Okay.
I had 3 get back to me and say, "Oh gosh, I missed the event. I'm sorry." And so they want to see the replay.
Perfect. And hence the replay in this case is important. So understand the value of the replay, like how to leverage the replay. Yes, it's for somebody who missed the event that you can call back and say, "I'm sorry you missed the event. Fortunately for us, they recorded it. If I send it to you, will you watch it?" Remember the if, I, will, you. Don't forget that part. That part's important. If I, will, you. And then they say yes. And then you'll say, "Well, for sure?" And they'll say, "Yes, for sure." And then you can say, like, "For sure, for sure." So then I can call you on Wednesday and get your take on it. See, that's the proper way to handle it, because if you don't establish the value, even if it's just a recording, they're not going to make the commitment. You'll get back to them tomorrow, the next day, and, "Oh yeah, I got it. It's in my inbox. Sorry, I didn't get to it." That's what you'll end up with, dragging this process on. And every day that it gets dragged on because you didn't get them to make the commitment means that this is not that important. And you can't afford for that to happen. So the more you insist on a commitment, because you're the one following through, they're the ones who are not making the commitment. So you got to get them to a point where they're saying what they mean and they mean what they say. So anyone else? By the way, Wes, you're in follow-up with those 3 people that were on the call, I assume. Wes, you're on a follow-up with those 3 people who were on the call?
Oh, I think I wouldn't.
No, I'm asking though.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay. Any outcomes so far? Any?
Oh yeah, one of them I sent it to already, and the other 2, we got to talk a little bit more.
I'm talking about the people who are actually on the call.
Yes, I have talked with them. That was very positive. One of them was already a consultant, but not really doing anything yet. But I think it might have spurred him on.
Yeah, so that becomes a lock-in event, remember? A lock-in event helps a person move from being a consultant to an active member.
Right.
Okay, great. By the way, did you use the follow-up email and the links that were there?
When you said follow-up email and links that were there, I didn't see what you were talking about.
Okay.
I saw the link to the replay.
If you didn't, okay. So to be certain that everybody knows what I'm talking about, there was an email sent by Dave Johnson to the organization that had a link on it that would take you to Magnetic Leaders. It said Royal Alliance at the top, and it was a crafted follow-up email, complete with links embedded to documents. That's something you can simply copy paste into an email to your follow-up, or you can just send them the link and say, "I want you to check this out. Here's the follow-up details." And the entire dossier of documents and video links are part of that follow-up. There's a video link to the Nikken brand video. There's a video link to the Water Matters. There's a video link. So there's a complete packet of information as a follow-up. That was also shared as a Dropbox link on all of the WhatsApp chats, the Launch Partners chat, the Launch LP Expansion chat, as many ways as we can get it out, we got it out so that you had a letter that you could send with links that were embedded to those various pieces, as well attachments such as the attachment to this plan, the attachment to the self-care magazine that was also part of and is part of the follow-up, so that when they got off that call, as I mentioned on the call, that the person who invited them would be getting back to them with a follow-up email that contained all of this information. So again, this is a very clearly defined process. We're trying to give you a system like flipping hamburgers. Don't fail the system. Follow the system to the letter of it, and you will start to experience the experience that most of us who follow a system actually have. There's some consistency in our results because we follow a system, and that system includes a follow-up packet of information. By the way, one of the pieces of that information was the PDF of the PowerPoint that was presented. So they had watched the presentation, but you know, when you're a spectator watching a presentation go by, you know, I don't know how much you retain, but now if you receive a PDF of the presentation, you can go through it at your leisure and remember and recall the conversation. And it's like, so it's providing people with a legitimate opportunity to explore the information in multiple ways: video, live, and written, and YouTube replays. So it's a really full immersion experience in what is Nikken and what are the benefits. Anyone else have work in the business or work in the event on Saturday, had guests at the event on Saturday? Chime in if you had a guest. Okay, I'll assume then those of you who are on who did not have a guest were either at the event as a spectator, checking it out, you know, kicking the tires, want to see what Mike and Ben and everybody's up to these days, what's new and improved, which is not really fruitful for you.
Mike, I did. Sorry, I was answering a text.
Chime in, Sherry.
I did too.
Yeah, I had a couple of people that had been consultants that had, you know, they just didn't renew. One of them, we played phone tag today. One of them is excited. We need to have a conversation. I didn't see the email, so I'm really glad to know that. I also had, I think, 2 other downline who each had a guest. And so they're in the process, but I don't think they got the email. So now I'm going to send the email
Okay,
out.
so
I'm glad to know that.
Okay, so definitely check your inbox, because if everybody's in Dave's line, so you should have received a broadcast email from Dave, which I don't want to do it right now. It'll take me time to look for it. But if somebody has it that you have on your phone, you can show what it looks like. It'll send you to the Magnetic Leaders webpage, and it's basically, he took what I sent in pieces, put it online, so it's all right there that you can just copy paste into an email. Or as an alternative to that, I gave you access to a Dropbox, which has a Word document, the letter, which I can bring up on my screen, as well the PDFs of the information you should attach. And that letter has...
You sent that out on WhatsApp.
I sent it out on WhatsApp.
You sent that out on WhatsApp.
Yeah, and so
Yep.
that's all. And I can screen share that in a little bit later, so you know what to look for. Carol's got it up on screen. Carol, where you? Let me just bring your screen up into. I think I can do it through speaker view. Can you speak? Carol, can you say something out loud so that you're?
I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that the, oops.
We saw that. That would look like it. Can I see again?
Yeah,
Say
right
something.
there.
So it's under launch partners.
I'm
Okay,
here.
you know what? We'll figure out how to share this again, but we'll make sure everybody has that.
It's on
link.
May 15th on Launch Partners.
May
Oh, here
15th.
it is. Follow you. Yeah, I got it.
Follow-up email. Okay, so That's it. That's the one. So if you click on that, that'll take you to the website that it's hosting that script, that follow-up letter. You'll see it's a follow-up letter that you would send to your guest, and embedded links where if you clicked on any one of those links, it drives to a video. So what they have is a follow-up packet of information. And we chose very specifically what things we wanted them to have so that they can make a decision about what to do next. There shouldn't be that much conversation, to be honest. It should just be maybe answer a few questions. But this process is significant because many people are not following a process. It's just hit and miss. It's hard to duplicate a business when you don't have a process. And so it's important that we develop our acuity on that. Stan, you're unmuted. Did you have some guests? Okay. Anybody else want to chime in? Did anybody else have a guest that you wanted to? Barb, you said you did, yeah.
I had a guest, but we have not connected yet.
Okay. And now I realize it's the weekend. I realize it's the long weekend. Thank you for that link. Gary just posted it. So if you want to go to the chat, you can copy and paste that link from the chat to get to that. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm
just
share my
emailing it to
screen.
myself so then I can forward it.
That's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
everything's on the WhatsApp. All the links, everything.
So let me just share my screen so you see what this draws you to. This will take you to this page. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah. Okay, so what is this? Thank you for joining us on the team or the Nikken Zoom In event. And if you copy and paste this, you can personalize it. Thank you, Frank, for joining us on the Nikken Zoom In event. I trust you found the information a compelling reason to further your exploration of Nikken. It will become more and more apparent how an involvement directly or indirectly with Nikken contribute in many positive ways to an improvement in quality of life for yourself, your family, and your community. If you missed our call and you're seeing this content for the first time, you will still find everything provided a valuable resource. You can also watch the presentation in full at the bottom of this page. The attached documents and YouTube video links below offer a recap of what was covered as well, a window into additional content to help you further establish the role Nikken may play in your life and how we can work together. And then here are all the links. Enjoy watching these videos, along with, oh, they forgot to remove the word optional. Okay, that shouldn't be in the copy, by the way, the word optional. It should just be, you know, why Nikken, click here, and so on and so forth. So here are the digital links for the catalog, for Canada, for USA. So if you clicked on Canada, you get the Canada digital catalog. USA, you'd get the digital catalog for US. The Better Way presentation that was done here, the Nikken business plan, which I held up here, and the Self-Care Awakening magazine, which I also held up here. So this is a great way to follow up with people. And then of course they included now, which wasn't there before, the video of the event itself. So talk about a system. That's pretty slick. So you
add the Nikken Connect is
pardon
the
me?
attachment too. The
Oh, I
Nikken
didn't see that.
Connect.
But what's really great is this was a first, but what we did was we made it in a way that if there's going to be a second or a third or whatever, we have a process, we have a system. Anyone else before I jump back into the marketing and promotion of the event?
Mike, this is a little bit off of that. I invited many by way of emails, text, phone calls. I'm not sure if anyone were on. I haven't heard from anybody, and I couldn't tell from some of the numbers that were on and that type of thing. But I've also been told, you know, by some of the mentors, keep putting out, keep doing the activities and that, and something may come your way that you weren't even expecting. Saturday afternoon, got a phone call from somebody who found my name online, connected with Nikken. We finally talked Sunday morning. She was a former consultant years ago, no interest in being a consultant. She's 88 years old, sharp as a tack, had a sleep system when they lived in Florida. She's now in Massachusetts. She ended up ordering much for herself, for her son, and asked me to send her a catalog so she could look things over again. She does text, she does get on internet, but she wanted the hard copy. So it was just another example of, you know, those of us who have invited people and they don't show up, maybe just doing the activities, something else will come in from a way that we didn't expect.
Let me turn that into a principle. Thank you for that, Dee, because the booklet, The Science of Getting Rich, teaches this. The idea is you could be a janitor with huge aspirations to be a business owner or whatever, and you're a janitor. You're simply somebody working in a school as a janitor. But what this law teaches is you have to outgrow the space you're in. You have to outgrow your vocation in how you apply yourself in your vocation. You've got to be a bigger person. You've got to have bigger shoes that you're wearing than the ones that you're actually wearing when you're doing your work. In other words, when you do what you do it 110%. When you put energy into the system, whatever mechanism you're using to put energy into the universe, give it your all. Envision in your mind how it's going to come back, because what you put into the system must return to source. That's the law. But the question is, how will it show up in the return? And that's a function of your energy in your mind. So if I only see myself as a janitor, it will show up with more janitorial work. But if I see myself as an entrepreneur or whatever, it may show up with somebody slipping on the floor that I cleaned so well that that entrepreneur who falls on the floor and breaks his butt gets up and says, damn, whoever cleaned that floor, I want to meet. And so they end up meeting that person and saying, who are you and how did you get this floor so clean? Because I got this and I got that and I'm looking for somebody like you. That's how the law works. It's synchronicity, it's serendipity, and you don't know how it's going to come back. So that is always happening. That's true, and it's always working in our lives. So keep that. That's sort of an aside to this conversation, but it's important to note that if you're going to put something in, put it all in, put your energy into the effort, but always have a self-image of how you want it to return. It will shape itself. It will cloak itself in what that self-image is. And if you have a bigger version of yourself in your mind, you think when I was working as an electrician, I was imagining myself being an electrician? There wasn't a single minute of any moment of any day that while I was working as an electrician, I was thinking about being an electrician. Not a second. I was doing the work and I was doing it really well because I only do what I do and I do well what I do. I put myself in it. But I wasn't thinking for a second that my life was going to be about being an electrician. That entire time, I'm imagining myself on stage. I'm imagining myself, with the lifestyle that I want to. So while I'm doing my work and I'm singing away doing my work, I'm not actually being an electrician in my mind. So it was inevitable that the circumstances would shift in my life, creating the opportunity. That's the law. It's the way it works. So let me backtrack for a second here. So to prepare you for this event, a little different than what we've done in the past, we created some postcards, what we're going to refer to going forward as postcards, which are little media, what Nikken's been doing for social media, that you can post on social media that gave the link to the event, date and time, with a bit of a caption. We gave it to you in the form of a PDF as well. So there was ways for you to involve other people in learning about this online, with emails, with text messages, the mechanism of using images to convey the importance of an upcoming event and the benefits associated with that event. You'll see there were 5 or 6, I can't remember how many I gave you, but each one had a little bit of a different take on why show up. And so marketing the event was part of it, but there's something that many of you have not learned, and that is how to market outside of your warm market. So, and I'll give you an example of this. I woke up this morning with a notification because we have the Nikken Zoom In Facebook page and event page, because those exist now on Facebook, people can respond to that or they can post to that. And I woke up with a post of a consultant in Nikken posting on our event page, the event page that we're using to tell you there's an event that you can then share with other people, posting on our event page, I've been in Nikken, it's a wonderful thing, the great products, blah, blah, blah. And if you want to join, here's my web page. Now think about what I just said. Here's a consultant who hasn't a clue what they're doing, promoting to Nikken people on somebody else's dime, on somebody else's page, that, oh, if you're over here because somebody's been doing a good job of promoting Nikken, come to me if you want to join. How ridiculous is that? Because they don't have a clue what they're doing. So if you find yourself tagging your Facebook page or your Nikken personal web page on somebody else's promotion, you're being what's called a parasite. That's parasite marketing, okay? Here's how you attract people who you didn't know you wanted to attract. You put your post on your Facebook page, which means many, not all, because Facebook runs algorithms. Only a very small percentage of our audience actually sees anything we post. So you're going to post something, and a very small percentage of your warm market, your already existing following, is going to see it. But they already know you're in Nikken if you've been doing anything at all, right? So how do you attract people who don't know you? Hashtags. You must add hashtags to your post. Add hashtag entrepreneur, hashtag, and there's no limit to how many hashtags you can add. Every time you add a hashtag to that post, which means you write it in the post. So there's the image, but in the text where it says, you know, say something, say, we invite you to join us, blah, 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 and then put a whack of hashtags. So start thinking about hashtags. Look at, what do you want to attract? Entrepreneurial spirit, positive, law of attraction. Just think of all the hashtags that would attract. If somebody is attracted to the law of attraction, they're checking out stuff that, and so these algorithms that are running in the background will start putting your post in front of people who are already interested in things like law of attraction, entrepreneurial, positive development, positive attitude, work from home, you name it. Whatever you can imagine as a hashtag, it probably already exists. And all you have to do to prove it to yourself is go on Facebook, put hashtag humans being more, and see what comes up. You'll see all the stuff that I've posted over the years and encouraged others to post over the years that has to do with hashtag humans being more. You'll see events and so forth. So it's all there. So use hashtags to expand your reach, to get people to join. And they'll know how they got there because it's your post they're seeing and they see who posted it. Okay? And you might even add in your little post, direct message, short form for that is DM me. DM me if you want to know more. I'd be happy to answer any questions. So that way, rather than marketing the event to people who are already in Nikken, and we do a lot of that. I'm telling you, I've had conversation after conversation with Nikken corporate that says, we're giving people social media tools. They haven't got a clue how to use them. They're just talking to each other. They're just talking to each other. We're just talking to each other. What's the point? If we're not going to expand our reach into the marketplace, what's the point? That's kind of like a cult following. We're just talking to each other. We want to get this information to an audience of people who are interested in what we have to talk about, but don't even know we exist. How do we do that? Hashtags. And you can look at stuff like this. Just look it up. Tell me about hashtags. Like, type it in. If you can speak English, you can type this into Google in a form of a sentence, and Google will come up with all kinds of responses to that question. And you can learn a little bit about how to get your message to a wider audience. So please think about doing that. You can boost a post. That's another thing you can learn how to do, in which case you can get your message out to a further audience. To do that, you have to have a page. Learn about that. How do I boost a post? And it's going to explain it to you. The goal here is to expand our business, to create an audience about what we're doing that don't know we're here, that don't know we exist. And we now know there's 30 million people unemployed as a result of this last 2 months fiasco, who 30 million people, my God, are not knowing what they're going to do. But I'll bet you 10 to 1, they're online every day looking for something. And you're there, but you're not connecting with them because you're not saying, and I'll give another example of a hashtag. Don't promote the Nikken brand names. Nobody you're looking for knows they exist. Mag Waterfall. Does anybody you know, you don't know what a Mag Waterfall is? They haven't got a clue. But if you put alkaline mineral water, oh my God, how many people are looking for alkaline mineral water? And all of a sudden, your post, your thing appears in front of their face. Use language correctly. Brand name doesn't work for you. Doesn't work for us. 10-4, fantastic. To who? To you who knows about it. Not to the audience out there that doesn't know it exists. So don't use brand names. Use hashtags. You can use the post that Nikken's giving you, the KVB. They're doing some pretty good stuff. Really good social media stuff. Don't just share it. Share it with hashtags so that you're talking to an audience of people through those hashtags who are interested in the subject of the hashtags. And then when they look at it, they're saying, this has to do with more energy in my system, in my body. This has to do with boosting my immune system. And they look at it and they start reading it. And now they're learning, now they're starting to make the connection. Because what got them to look was the connection to what they are interested in. So keep this in mind. This is really basic and fundamental, but I made notes because I thought this was really important. People need to have this, this understanding. Okay, I think I got what I wanted to cover. There may be one other piece. Okay, your story. Learning your personal, how to tell your story. This is important too. I think we need to have a very concise, because one of the things that we want to do on this call going forward, or for that matter, any call you might be invited to or any call you might host, you want to make sure that people can tell their story, what's relevant about their story to a consumer or to a prospect who doesn't know Nikken, who doesn't know the brand, who doesn't know they should trust or respect it. So your story is the connection point. But learning how to tell your story in a very concise manner so that you're not consuming time on a call with unnecessary meandering is really, really important at the professional level, at a level where you become more relevant. And so if you're talking about your Nikken story, points that I would cover: why did you look? That answers the first question. Why did you look at this? How did you learn about it or discover it? That's the second point. 3, what did you do to get started? Keep it short. 4, what happened in your first 30 to 90 days? I don't care much further than that if I'm a prospect. I just want to know, can something change in my life in the next 30 to 90 days, yes or no? You can sell me the future of Nikken later. I just want to know, is the next 30 to 90 days of my life going to be improved if I pay attention to what you're saying? Yes or no? Start with what matters, and what matters is what's right in front of people. And then finally, number 5, where do you see this going for yourself and others? Okay, that's how you tell your story. That's how you give a testimony. Why'd you look? Number 1. 2, how'd you learn about Nikken or discover it? 3, what did you do to get started? 4, what happened in your first 30 to 90 days? And 5, where do you see this going for yourself and others? Boy, if you had, and by the way, if we could nail this, there's 26 of you, including me, on this call. If we could nail that down to a 1 to 3 minute max, then you're asked, can you give it in 1 minute? Can you give it 2 minutes? Can you give it 3? You're going to be somebody we want to use on these calls, your story, because we want more stories. Facts tell, stories sell. And the more stories we have, the less facts we need. So right now, we're really facts heavy in Nikken. We're really facts oriented. When I joined Nikken, we were really story heavy. And that's why we exploded, because the stories were so powerful. And then we had to figure out what the facts were behind the story. And then what happened was we started getting so facts heavy that we started shrinking the amount of time that we had for the stories to the point where we almost didn't even have stories. So we want to bring the storylines back. But the question is, what is the relevant story? It depends on the context of the call. And for the sake of selling the idea of being involved in Nikken as a business idea, your story needs to include these 5 basic points. Why did you look? How did you learn or discover Nikken? What did you do to get started? What happened in your first 30 to 90 days? And where do you see this going? So that becomes a story for a new person to latch onto, something they can relate to. And so keep that in mind. Your story is important, and getting your story down, concise. What's often called your elevator pitch, but this is a little bit more than an elevator pitch. This is really about your story, your personal success story with Nikken. Make it short, make it concise, because we want to use it. We are looking to solicit you in these calls. So when we ask for you to volunteer your story, you're on it like that. You're not sitting there, oh, I don't want to talk. No, don't pick me. Don't pick me up. They don't pick me. You want to be picked. We want to hear your story. And if you've got guests on the call, all the more reason you want to volunteer your story. You want your guests to hear your story in front of all the other people, because then they're thinking, hey, I'm with Mr. So-and-so. They're pretty impressive. They're the one talking. Okay, so these are little nuggets, guys, but they make all the difference in the world when you're building a network marketing business, because we're in the people business. We're in the storytelling business. And learning how to tell that story in a way that flows with some consistency of information gives you a process that you can teach others. And when you can teach others, you will have no reservation about recruiting others. But when you feel subconsciously you wouldn't have a clue what to do with somebody if you sponsored them, you subconsciously sabotage sponsoring them. That's the law of attraction. So I'm trying to get the cobwebs out of your system and give you some streamlined efficiency so that you are a lean, mean recruiting machine.
It's working, Michael. Feel good. It's working.
Okay. Well, so probably on Ben's call tomorrow, he's going to get into some more of the specifics regarding this event, and we're going to take that because we have an event, we have a call following his call, so that we can make some decisions about going forward in terms of furthering this agenda of at least giving you a surefire monthly event that you can rely on and start working your daily and your weekly agendas toward. Another thing that I'm working on with the help of my team Canada is a thing called the KPIs. Basically, a simple form that will give you the ability to just say, am I doing these things? Because if I'm not really doing these things, then I'm probably treating this like a hobby and not a business. And so we're going to give you what are called KPIs, key performance indicators. I've even asked some of my counterparts in Mexico. But bottom line is, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, then we should be winning incentives. How do you know if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing? You're winning the incentives. you're helping other people win the incentives. So if you're not sure what you should be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, take a look at the incentives program. It tells you. Like, start with the most simplest one, the first one, the power start, and say, okay, am I doing this? Am I teaching this? Then look at the next one. Just look at those key performance indicators, those things on those incentives, and say, am I doing this? Or more specifically, what would I need to be doing on a daily basis to ensure this is happening? What would I need to be doing on a weekly basis to ensure that is happening? What do I need to be doing on a monthly basis to make sure the other thing is happening? So ask those questions. That'll give you a business perspective. Because in my experience and the experience of many others, hobbies cost us money. Businesses make us money. So is your Nikken hobby or is it your Nikken business? And the answer to that will be, are you doing the things that generate income? Or are you busy just doing things? And I don't blame anybody, by the way. This is not a pointing fingers thing. If you come from the world of being an employee where you're being told what to do and your performance is measured by your supervisors or boss because they have some indication of what a KPI is, and they're looking at your performance and wondering whether they should keep you or not, then you have not had the benefit of being that person, that entrepreneur who's holding somebody accountable or performance accountability. But when you step into the world of being an entrepreneur, for many people for the first time, and that's what we're encouraging. We're encouraging an infusion of entrepreneurship. We're looking for people to branch out of their employee attitude, which is 85% of the population, into their self-employment attitude. That means they need to learn how to think like an entrepreneur. They need to learn how to think objectively. They need our help in understanding, what should I be doing if I'm doing what I should be doing correctly? How do I know if I had a productive day? Because as an entrepreneur, you measure the outcomes. What are those outcomes? You don't measure the activity. The activity is what produces the outcome. You measure the outcomes and you make the adjustments in the activity to align with the outcomes that you are seeking. An entrepreneur is results-oriented, not activity-oriented. An employee is activity-oriented, not results-oriented. Commission employment is results-oriented. You don't get paid for the effort. You get paid for the sale. And so, again, very subtle point, but huge, because we're not mentally told this. We don't go to boot camp, entrepreneurial boot camp, where you learn, here's the KPIs. If you're not doing this, count yourself out. Like, that's not how it works here. This is a volunteer army, but we do need the benefit of years and years of experience in business and say, hey, what's the best of the entrepreneurial world? Let's bring it into our microcosm, which is we're all entrepreneurs here, and put it to work for ourselves. Let's put it to work in our own little Nikken business and turn our little Nikken business into a gold mine. Well, it is 10, and we did go over time. Barb, did you have a thing you want to shout out before we leave up?
I just wanted to reiterate the whole idea about putting where people are from, because, and maybe that should start at the beginning, because with 300 people, I had trouble finding my guest on there as well. But as soon as I saw where they were from and their name, I went, okay. So I don't know if it's feasible or it should be, but maybe as they come on, let them be chatting it in.
Can't be.
No.
There's a point where we have to start and we have to shut the calls off. Believe me, managing the call is not something easy. When you hear what you heard, you would hear background noise, and either me or Ben were racing through all the people trying to figure out which one is unmuted.
Yeah, I understand.
So yeah, we're working in the background, even though you're hearing one person talk. Somebody's trying to keep the call going in the right direction. So yeah, I
just made a list, Mike, of everybody I invited, and because I couldn't see them all on the screen either. And then I've just been systematically calling them back, Were you able to make it? There were so many on there, I couldn't pick you out.
I have another way of thinking. I think you should call them back saying, what'd you think of the call? Was that something or what? And let them tell you they weren't on it.
True. That's a good approach.
Make the assumption they were there. And then when they tell you that they weren't, say, oh, my, what happened? Let them explain what happened. And then say, well, lucky for you, I was on. And not only that, but I believe they recorded it. So I'll make sure I can find that link and get it to you, etc. And you can follow up that way. So yeah, otherwise it becomes mayhem. We can't track everybody's everybody has to operate their own little business within the context of working collaboratively. We can't track everybody's everything. So we create a platform, we create a storyline, we give you the marketing tools. Let's use this. Let's work it. By the way, corporate was really impressed. So with everybody's...
Were they on?
Oh, they were watching. Believe me, they know what's going on. So this was an important thing, though. They paid attention, and it was important that they were looking and seeing. And I'm talking like to the top of the totem pole. So this was important. It was an important move for us. So it's proven.
Put another smile on Kurt's face.
It's simply proof. It's proof that we can adapt in this environment. We can make this business work almost in any condition. This is a selling point. So another straw in our hat, another feather in our cap, right? All right, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the call. Thank you for those who helped with getting your information across. And I'll see you on tomorrow's call. This playback will be recorded and posted in a few minutes on our WhatsApp chats and on the Royal Alliance channel.
This was really good, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for chiming in.
Thank you, Mike.